You spend enough years out here, you learn something they don't put in the CDL manual. The road is mostly empty. Mostly. Every driver I know has one story. Just one. The one they don't tell at the counter at the Petro. The one they only tell at 2 in the morning, parked next to you, engines idling, when there's nothing but the CB and the dark. Tonight, I've got 5 of those stories. 5 different drivers. I'm just going to let them talk. Keep your eyes on the road. And if something flags you down out there tonight, maybe just keep rolling. All right. My name's Dale. Been driving 31 years, flatbed the last 12. And I want to say up front, I don't believe in this stuff. I still don't. Mostly. Which is the problem, because I can't explain what I'm about to tell you, and I've had 11 years to try. This was 2013. I 40 westbound through Arizona, somewhere past Winslow, headed for a drop in Kingman. November. If you've run 40 through there in November, you know how it gets after dark. High desert cold, no lights, nothing on either side of you but black. You can go 20 minutes without seeing another set of headlights. It was maybe 12:40 at night. I was tired but legal. Had about 2 hours left on my clock. Planned to shut down at the Loves in Bellamont. And right around mile marker 114. I remember the marker, and you'll understand why in a minute. My headlights catch something on the shoulder. A girl, standing on the shoulder. Not walking. Standing, facing the road. Young, maybe 19, 20. Jean jacket, no bag, no broke-down car, no flashes up ahead. Just her, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, at midnight, in November. Now, company policy, common sense, all of it says you don't stop. And I didn't. I blew right past her at 62 miles an hour. But here's the first thing that bothered me, and it bothered me immediately. Her hair didn't move. You pass somebody standing on the shoulder in a 70,000-pound truck. The wind wall off that thing will about knock a person sideways. Her jacket didn't move. Her hair didn't move. It was like I drove past a photograph. I chewed on that for a mile or two. Told myself I imagined it. Speed, dark, tired eyes. You see stuff at night. Shadows that look like people. Trash bags that look like dogs. That's normal. Then about 4 miles up, my lights catch the shoulder again. Same girl, same jean jacket, same stance, facing the road. And folks, I need you to understand, nobody passed me. Nothing passed me. There is no way a person on foot covers 4 miles of interstate in 5 minutes. My arms went cold from the wrists up. I remember that specifically. Not my back, not my neck, my arms, like I'd stuck 'em in a cooler. And this time, as I came up on her, she raised one hand, not waving, not thumbing a ride, just raised it, palm out, like a crossing guard, like she was telling me to stop. I did not stop. I'm not ashamed to say I got on that pedal, and my old Pete found a couple horses I didn't know she had. And here's where it stops being a spooky story and starts being the thing I don't tell people. 2 miles later, 2 miles, traffic stopped dead. Flares on the road. A four-wheeler had come off the Meteor City overpass, maybe 10 minutes before I got there, sitting upside down across both lanes in the dark. No lights on it, no flares yet when it happened. The trooper who walked the line of trucks told me the first guy who came up on it never saw it, locked everything up, and stopped maybe 30 feet short. 10 minutes. If I hadn't slowed down for that girl the first time, if I hadn't been rattled and off my pace, do the math on where I would have been. I'd have come around that curve doing 62 into a dead black car laying across my lane. So a couple months later, I'm at the TA in Kingman, and I tell this to an old boy at the fuel desk, local guy, and he doesn't laugh. He just says, "Jean jacket?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "That's the Padilla girl. She got killed walking that stretch in the 80s. She shows up before Rex." Now I looked. I did. And I'll tell you what I found. In the Winslow Paper Archive, 1987, there's a one-paragraph story about a 19-year-old girl killed by a vehicle on I-40 west of town. It doesn't give a mile marker. It gives her name, and her last name was Padilla. I never found her again, never saw her again, and I run that road to this day. But every time I pass 114, I lift 2 fingers off the wheel, just in case she's watching. Seems polite. That was Dale. This next fella runs reefer out of the Midwest, younger guy, and his story doesn't happen on the road. It happens somewhere worse. It happens at a rest area at 3 in the morning. His name's Marcus. So, okay, I'm Marcus. I'm 34, been driving 9 years, and before this, I would have told you, rest areas are the most boring places in America. Concrete, vending machines, a map under plexiglass nobody's looked at since 1994. This was 2 winters ago, I-80 in Wyoming, which if you know, you know. That stretch between Laramie and Rawlins, where the wind tries to kill you personally. They'd shut the interstate for a ground blizzard, and everything was packed. Every truck stop, every exit, every ramp. I ended up at this little rest area, and I mean little, maybe 10 truck spots, all full. So I'm parked at the far end past the lot, half on gravel, nose pointed at nothing. About 2:30 in the morning, I wake up because I got to use the bathroom. Simple as that. Wind's dropped off, real quiet. Snow's stopped. And I notice, walking across the lot, that every single truck is dark. No parking lights, no reefer motors. And I'm hauling reefer. So trust me, you notice when a reefer unit isn't cycling. 10 trucks, and it's silent, like a church. Weird, but okay, whatever. Cold does strange things to sound. I get to the building, and there's a guy at the vending machines, standing with his back to me. Work coat, wool cap, regular trucker-looking dude. And he's just standing there in front of the machine, not putting money in, not picking anything, both arms down at his sides, face like 6 inches from the glass. I say, "Hey, how you doing?" Because that's what you do. You announce yourself at 3 a.m. so nobody gets startled. Nothing. Doesn't move. Okay. Some guys are half asleep. Some guys are on something. I don't need to know. I go in, use the bathroom, and while I'm in there, I hear the vending machine drop something. That heavy thunk, you know it. Fine. So he did buy something. Except when I come out, he's at the second machine now. Same exact pose, arms down, face at the glass. And the drop tray of the first machine is empty, and there's nothing in his hands. And now, I'm looking at him. Actually looking. And I realize what's been scratching at the back of my brain since I walked up. There's no breath. It's maybe 5 degrees out, and I'm blowing steam like a locomotive with every breath. And this man, standing 18 inches from a lit vending machine, has no cloud around his face. Nothing. I said, "Man, you okay?" And his head turned. Not his body. His head. And it turned smooth, like it was on a bearing, and he looked at me, and I swear to you on my kids, his eyes were the wrong distance apart, not deformed, not injured, wrong, like a picture of a face that somebody edited and moved things half an inch. And he said, totally calm, normal voice, friendly even. He said, "Which one is yours?" And every alarm in my body went off at once, because he wasn't asking about a snack. I knew what he was asking. He was asking which truck. I didn't answer. I just started walking, fast, not running, because some animal part of me said don't run. And behind me, I hear him say it again. Same exact tone, same exact spacing, like a recording. "Which one is yours?" I got in my truck, locked both doors, and sat there with the engine on and my hand on the horn, watching the building. He never came out. Nobody came out. And at some point around 4, I fell asleep, which I still can't believe. And when the interstate opened at 7, and everybody fired up and rolled out, I made myself walk back to that building in the daylight. The first vending machine, the one I heard drop, had a sign taped to it, handwritten, "Out of order, no power to unit." I asked the state guy, ploughing the lot, how long the machine had been dead. He said, "That one, been unplugged since October, compressors shot." Here's the part I don't tell people, though. When I did my walk around that morning, there were prints in the snow around my truck, all the way around it. Boot prints, close in, right along the fairings, the way you walk when you're checking a truck out. They went around my truck 3 times. And they didn't come from the building, and they didn't lead back to the building, and there were 10 other trucks in that lot, and not one print near any of them. Just mine. He found out which one was mine. I don't stop at that rest area anymore. Close my window shades every night for about a year, too. You can call it a weird dude in a parking lot if it makes you sleep better. But weird dudes breathe. Breathe. Yeah. Hold that thought. Because this next driver, a lady out of Tennessee, been driving longer than some of you have been alive. Her story's about a voice on the CB that knew things it had no way of knowing. Here's Rhonda. I'm Rhonda. I'm 61, and I've been behind the wheel since Reagan. My late husband Earl and I ran team for 22 years, and after he passed in 2016, I kept driving, because sitting home in a quiet house was worse than any road. This happened in 2019, on I-70 through eastern Colorado, which people think is nothing, flat, straight, boring. But boring roads at night are where your mind gets loose, and I keep the CB on for company even now, even though it's mostly dead air and mostly nonsense when it isn't. It was about 11 at night, light snow starting, that dry little snow that hisses on the windshield. And a voice comes over Channel 19. Older man, gravel in it, real easy drawl. Says, "Westbound, you got your chains?" Now nobody chains on I-70 out east. That's mountain business, that's Vale Pass business, and I'm 200 miles from the mountains. Couple guys keyed up laughing, said something smart, and the voice didn't laugh back. It just said, again, patient as a Sunday school teacher, "Westbound, you're going to want to slow it way down before the bridge at Deer Trail." And I felt something walk up my spine because of the way he said it. Earl used to talk on the radio like that, not the same voice. I want to be clear. I'm not telling you a story about my husband calling me on the CB. I'm not that far gone yet, but the same manner, that old school way, where a man says a thing once, calm, and means it. So the chatter died off, and I'm rolling along, and this voice keys up every few minutes. Snow's greasing up past exit 328. "Watch your trailer. Wind's coming crossways at the grain elevator." Little things, specific things, and they were all true. Every single one, right where he said. And here's what started to bother me. Nobody else was talking to him. Nobody said copy. Well, I did once. I said, "Copy that, driver. Appreciate it." And he didn't acknowledge me. Not rude. More like he couldn't hear me. Like it was going one direction only. And there were no trucks ahead of me. That's the thing. It's a clear, flat road, and I could see miles of it. And there were no tail lights in front of me for that voice to be riding in. CB's line of sight, few miles at best. So who was reporting road conditions from a stretch of road with nobody on it? About 11:40, he keys up one more time, and this time, the voice says, "Little lady in the blue Kenworth." I drive a blue Kenworth. It was pitch black and snowing. He says, "Little lady in the blue Kenworth, you're going to shut it down at the Flying J at Lyman tonight. Don't you go past Lyman." And I keyed up, and my voice was shaking, and I said, "Who is this?" And there was a long pause, long enough I thought he was gone, and then just, "Lyman, promise me, promise me." Earl used to say that. Every time we split up at a terminal, every time I ran a leg solo, "Promise me, Rhonda." It was our thing for 22 years. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I stopped because I believed something supernatural was happening, or because I was crying too hard to drive safe. But I took the Lyman exit, parked at the Flying J, and shut it down at midnight, even though I had hours left and a delivery window I was going to blow. At 2:15 in the morning, a semi went off the road at the Deer Trail Bridge, 30-some miles past Lyman. Black ice on the deck, went through the rail. The driver didn't make it. It was in the Denver News the next morning. You can find it. February 2019, I-70 at Deer Trail, westbound. Right at the time, I would have been crossing that bridge if I'd kept my clock running. Now here's my little detail, the one I've never been able to file away anywhere. When I got back in the truck the next morning and turned the key, the CB came on, and it came on tuned to channel 21, not 19. I have run channel 19 for 40 years. I never touched that dial. Nobody was in my truck. But channel 21 was ours, Earl's and mine, our team channel, so we could talk without the whole road listening. I hadn't turned that knob since 2016. I sat there a good while. Then I said, "Thank you," out loud to an empty cab, turned it back to 19, and went to work. Take from that whatever you want. All I know is somebody who knew our promise, on our channel, made sure I wasn't on that bridge. And I don't need to understand a gift to be grateful for it. Take a breath after that one. I did. Now, this next one's different. No ghosts, no voices. This is about a place, a stretch of road that, according to the driver telling it, isn't always there. He hauls out of Louisiana, name's TJ, and I'll warn you now, his ending has paperwork. Yeah, so I'm TJ. I'm out of Lafayette. Been running mostly regional, Gulf states, about 14 years. And what I got isn't a ghost story, 'cause I never saw a soul. What I got is 31 miles that don't exist. October 2021. I'm running a load up through North Louisiana into Arkansas. Back roads part of the way, 'cause of a detour. Parish road, 2-lane, pine trees, the kind of road where your headlights are the only lights in the world. GPS says stay on this road 40 minutes, then pick up the highway. Simple. About midnight, I pass a little white church on the right. I remember it clear. Little white church, gravel lot, one of those signs with the plastic letters, and it said, "Walk by faith." Okay. Pretty. Kept rolling. Road got narrower. Trees got closer. And the first thing I noticed, and any driver will tell you this is the thing you notice, The center line quit. Paint just stopped. Then the shoulders went from gravel to grass. Then my GPS goes recalculating. Then it goes grey. Not lost signal, grey. The map just showing my little arrow floating on a blank screen, like I was driving on unmapped nothing. Phone, no service. Fine, it's rural Louisiana, that happens. But here's what doesn't happen. My odometer's rolling, right? I'm watching miles click by, doing about 45 because the road's rough. And I drove for what the odometer says was 31 miles without a single mailbox, driveway, crossroad, power line, or sign. 31 miles in Louisiana. You cannot drive 31 miles in Louisiana without a Dollar General. I'm sorry. It's not possible. No deer, no possums, no bugs in the headlights. And that's when it hit me. No bugs. October in Louisiana. Your windshield's a crime scene. Mine was clean, and nothing was hitting it. And I rolled the window down, and it was dead quiet. No frogs, no insects. South is never quiet. Never. It sounds like a friar 24 hours a day. This was like driving inside a photograph of a road, and it was the same road. That's the part that got me sweating. Same curve, gentle right, every couple minutes. Same busted section of fence on the left. I saw that fence, I swear, at least 4 times. Same dead pine leaning against a live one. You ever get that feeling on a long haul where you go, wait, didn't I already pass that? Imagine that feeling being correct. I stopped. Middle of the road. Who cares? Nobody's coming. Nobody exists. Set my brakes. Got out. Stood on the step. Quiet, like a sealed room. And the air smelled wrong. Cold and clean, like winter. And it was 70 degrees out. I got back in, and I did the only thing I could think of. I turned around, broke every rule, backed and filled a 53-foot trailer on a 2-lane in the dark. Took me 6 tries, and I drove back the way I came. 8 minutes. 8 minutes, y'all. And there's the white church. Walk by faith. 31 miles in, 8 minutes out, same road, no turns. GPS pops back on like nothing happened. Phone's got bars, bugs hitting the windshield again, frogs screaming in the ditch. I sat in that church lot till sunrise. Didn't sleep a wink. Now, the paperwork. My truck's got an ELD, electronic logs, GPS breadcrumbs, the whole 9, 'cause the company tracks everything. Monday, my safety guy calls me. Says, TJ, we got a data problem on your Thursday night. Your unit shows you stationary at one location for 52 minutes, but your engine data shows the wheels turning and 31 miles on the odometer in that same window. Were you towing? Was the truck on a lift? On a lift, at midnight, in the woods. According to the satellite, I never moved from a point on that parish road, and according to my own drivetrain, I drove 31 miles. Both of those are machine records. Machines don't get spooked. Machines don't imagine things. And they flat contradict each other for 52 minutes of my life. The discrepancy's still in the system. Safety filed it as a telematics fault. And maybe it was. But I went back, daylight, few weeks later, on purpose, found the church, and past that church, the road runs 4 miles, 4, and tees into Highway 79. There's no 31 miles back there. There's no room for 31 miles back there. I asked an old man cutting grass by the church about the road, and he stopped his mower, and he looked at me for a second, and he said, "You drove it at night?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he just shook his head and said, "It's longer at night," and turned his mower back on. That's it. That's all he'd say. "It's longer at night. I take the interstate now. It's longer at night." Man. All right, last one. I saved this one because the driver who told it to me made me promise to tell it exactly like he said it, every detail, because he says the details are the proof. His name's Frank. He's retired now, and this is about a house on a road he'd driven for 11 years, a road where there was no house. My name's Frank. I'm 60 BA, 68 years old, retired 3 years now, drove for 39. And I want to say before I start, I was there, I was sober, I was rested, and I know that road like I know my wife's face. US 50 through Nevada. They call it the loneliest road in America. That's the official nickname. It's on the signs. I ran it regular for 11 years. A dedicated run. Ely to Fallon and back. 11 years, twice a week. There is nothing on big stretches of that road. That's the point of it. You learn every ranch light, every cattle guard, every dip. It's like a song you know by heart. So, January 2018, night run, clear, cold, moon out, snow on the sagebrush. About 40 minutes west of Eureka, middle of a stretch I could draw blindfolded. I come around a sweep, and there's a house on the right, set back maybe 100 yards off the road. 2-story white farmhouse, wraparound porch, every window lit, warm yellow light, every window, upstairs and down, and smoke coming off the chimney straight up in the cold, and a porch light on. And I want to be real clear with you. There is no house there. There has never been a house there. I had passed that spot over 2,000 times. You don't miss a 2-story farmhouse in country where you can see a rabbit at half a mile. My first thought wasn't fear. That's the honest truth. My first thought was, when did they build that? Because your brain reaches for the reasonable thing. And then my second thought arrived. Cold, right behind it. Nobody built that. Not since Tuesday. I slowed down. I shouldn't have, but I slowed down, dropped to maybe 30, and looked. And here's the detail I told the fella to make sure got in. There was laundry on the line, sheets, white sheets on a clothesline beside the house, in January, at night, at 15 degrees. And they were moving, swaying, gentle, like in a breeze. And there was no breeze. The chimney smoke was going straight up, dead straight, like a pencil line. You can't have both. Sheets don't sway in air that lets smoke rise straight. Every window lit, and I couldn't see one person, one shadow, one shape moving in that house. Lit up like Christmas Eve, and empty as a showroom. And then my headlights swept a mailbox at the end of its little drive, and the mailbox had a name on it, painted, and I read it as I rolled past. Werner, Werner. I didn't stop. I want to tell you I was brave, but the truth is, my foot made the decision before I did, and I was back up to speed, and that porch light was shrinking in my mirror, and I watched it in the mirror. I watched it, and the lights didn't turn off. They just got further away, and then the road curved, and they were gone. 4 days later, I'm eastbound on the same run, daylight this time, and I slowed down through that whole stretch looking. Nothing. Sage, snow, fence line, no house, no drive, no mailbox. But there was, and I stopped for this. I pulled over and walked out, boots in the snow. There was a foundation. Old concrete foundation back off the road, maybe 100 yards, about the footprint of a good-sized farmhouse, broke up, sage growing through it, been there decades, and the stub of a burnt chimney, and laying flat in the brush, rusted through, a steel post with a cross arm, a clothesline pole. I stood there a while, and my breath was the only sound in Nevada. So here's what I did, 'cause I'm stubborn. Next time I laid over in Eureka, I went to the little museum they got there, County Historical Society, sweet older lady running it, and I asked her, careful, like it was idle curiosity, was there ever a family named Werner out west of town on 50? And she didn't even have to look it up. She said, the Werner place, burned in the 50s, terrible thing. And I said, oh. And she said, and I'll say it exactly like she said it. She said, house fire in the winter of 52. The whole family. They say Mrs. Werner had wash on the line when it happened, and it was still hanging there after, and nobody could bring themselves to take it down for the longest time. That's what she said. Wash still on the line, and nobody could bring themselves to take it down. And then she looked at me, this sweet little lady in a cardigan, and she said, why do you ask? And I lied. I said I'd read about it somewhere. Because what was I going to say? That 4 nights ago, the Werner house was standing, lit up, warm, smoke going, sheets swaying in wind that wasn't there. She'd have called somebody about me. But as I was leaving, my hand on the door, she said one more thing. She said, you're a truck driver, aren't you? Not a question, really. And I said, yes, Mum. And she nodded, like that settled something. And she said, drivers ask about that place. Every few years, one comes in and asks. It's always drivers. It's always January. It's always drivers. It's always January. I drove that road 3 more years before I retired, and I never saw the house again. And I'll tell you the truth. Part of me was disappointed every single January, and part of me held my breath through that curve every single January, and I couldn't tell you which part was bigger. But I'll tell you the last thing, the thing I never even told my wife until last year. That night, when I passed the house, when I was rolling slow at 30 with my window cracked, because I always drive with it cracked, I smelled it. Wood smoke. Real wood smoke. Clear as anything, coming in the window. And bread. Fresh bread baking. From a house that burned down with a family inside it. 12 years before I was ever born. You can imagine a light. Maybe you can even imagine sheets on a line. You cannot imagine the smell of bread. That came in the window. That was real. Somebody was baking in that house, and God help me. Sometimes I think if I had pulled in that drive and walked up on that porch and knocked, somebody would have opened the door, and they'd have been glad to see me. That's the thought that keeps me up. Not that the house was there, that it was waiting, that maybe it's still out there some January night, every window warm, porch light on, wash on the line, waiting for some tired driver to finally stop. So, 5 drivers, 5 roads. Dale still lifts 2 fingers at mile marker 114. Marker still checks the snow around his truck every morning, every winter, even in Texas. Rhonda runs Channel 19, but she tells me every once in a while, on a long empty stretch, she flips over to 21 for a minute or 2, just to listen, just in case. TJ takes the interstate. And Frank told me last month he's thinking about driving out to Nevada this January, just to look. His wife doesn't know yet. I told him don't. He laughed. He didn't say okay. Here's the thing about all 5 of these stories, and it's the thing that keeps me collecting them. Not one of these people wanted it to be true. Every single one of them spent years trying to explain it away. Tired eyes, telematics fault, some drifter in a parking lot, an old woman's grief playing tricks with a radio. That's what real ones sound like. Liars want you to believe them. These folks would give anything not to believe themselves. So if you're out there tonight, somewhere dark, somewhere between exits, and your GPS stutters, or your CB crackles when nobody's around, or your headlights catch something on the shoulder that stands a little too still, you don't have to believe in anything. You just have to keep rolling, but maybe lift 2 fingers off the wheel as you pass. Seems polite. If you've got a story of your own, and if you've driven long enough, you do, drop it in the comments or send it in. Change the names if you want. The road doesn't care about names. Drive safe out there. Watch your mirrors. And remember what the old man said. It's longer at night.